Good evening. My name is Stan Zier. Before I begin, I'd like to tell you something about myself so you understand where these ideas came from and what my determinations are and what I went through to come to these ideas and the struggles I've faced. I was a salesman at Berlang Company on Madison Avenue, and we sold structural steel into the skyscrapers at that time. At that time, after work, I used to head into the worst ghettos in New York City to visit families and youth who had given up on the American dream. I spent many years training them, standing up to people like Farrakhan and Sharpton, who said there is no chance that they'd have an American dream. That was pretty much my mission. Then why would I walk into such a circumstance and also wear this Jewish badge of courage? Was I crazy? Was there something wrong with me? No. When I was a kid, I experienced the horror of being called a kike, a Jew, and threatened and beaten. I had no idea where it came from. But I knew I was in a country. I finally, that my parents could come and we could achieve the American dream. At that time, I made a declaration of war on hate and tyranny, that never again would I allow that to happen to me or anyone else. To make a story short, I was there for 30 years in the ghettos. I traveled down south, talked in the churches about this never again, about standing up with the Constitution, defending it against this hate. People would come and destroy it. At that time, I also received the Medal of Valor for standing up. Someone had attacked our community center, and unfortunately, I got a stabbed in the chest, life-threatening knife wound, and had to recover from that. I also got honors from the Joint Chief of Staffs of working with the Marines and with the Cubans, and I held the first rally in America after 9/11 at Lincoln Memorial. That was the first rally held. And now I'm working on the Pledge of Allegiance, and I also started the Victorious America Coalition, Freedom Coalition, which is never again is now, to stop the hate, to end the hate that is brought on by tyrannical forces, by godless people. So with that, I'd like to open up and start talking about something that you have never heard before. Stop. So the question I'm going to ask today, or what I'm proposing, is that the word tyranny itself is the key to victory. It's the key to opening up the door to liberty's universe. So everyone is on the same battlefield and clearly see what needs to be done. You know, for years I've watched the president put his hand on the Bible. For instance, President Trump is about to place his hand on his family Bible and take the oath of office to the highest and most prestigious elected seat in the world. He will utter the words that will be the cornerstone of his administration as he swears to uphold and protect the Constitution from enemies, both foreign and domestic. While the world will focus on the pomp and circumstances surrounding this pivotal moment, filled with entertainment, parades, speeches, balloons, galas, nothing will be more compelling. Stop. Is his pledge to Washington, his redress to King George. It is his battle for America, and the one thread that weaves together every president from George Washington forward. For years, I thought about this act of swearing in of the new president. What exactly is a president pledging? Isn't it a relatively symbolic ritual? The answer came to me one day, and everything suddenly made sense. He was pledging not only to uphold the Constitution, but to protect the rule of law that is America's firm stance against tyranny, and what gives America her just purpose and noble cause. In other words, he was pledging to protect the Constitution, the laws that keep us free, from anyone that would come to this republic and try to shred that Constitution and take over with absolute power, so we'd have to answer to the tyranny of the state. That is exactly what the veterans are doing when they go out to battle. They're putting their lifeline on defending the Constitution. They're defending not a piece of paper, but the laws that are in the Constitution that keep us free from anyone that would come and change those laws, come to power and make tyranny the rule of law. So we'd also all need to get the approval of the state for any actions we make, and that is called slavery or communism. Stop.
Stand. Okay.
1 second. Ready. What was this act of treachery that our founding fathers talked about and gained victory over in the War of Independence from England in order to gain the full measure of their freedoms? They called it tyranny. Where did this act of tyranny, stop. Where did this act of tyranny arise from? No one ever asked. Sorry, cut it? Start it again? It's okay, let her. Where did this act of treachery arise from? What is the seed that provided the root source of this nourishment? No one has ever asked that question. No one. And it's quite surprising. And here's the answer. The Bible introduces us to the destruction that ensues through tyranny when men, instead of honoring the sovereignty of God, uses his moral power to lord over and repress other men demanding allegiance to him, a God he creates in his own image. These dominions of oppressions that carry the seeds of rebellion are found in every fascist totalitarian nation, Russia, China, Cuba, and now it's found its home in the Democratic Party, whose plan is to establish a new America, one that will reject the Constitution and abolish our sovereignty as a free nation under God. Stop. And what can I say? Why would I say the White House, it's the same as Cuba? Because we are being denied our God-given rights, freedom of the press, freedom to gather and redress grievances, Freedom of worship is being challenged. And that's exactly what happens when people from the past stop. And that is what I was talking about. Nations who demanded allegiance to themselves instead of God. That is what's going on here. We are facing a tyranny. We are facing an insurrection. The Democrats' insurrection. They've taken over our nation. They're communists. And they're denying us all our rights. Now I'm going to tell you something that you've never heard before. Not from Alan Dershowitz, Mark Levin, any of the great scholars, any of the constitutional scholars, anyone from the Supreme Court. No one has said these words. And the reason I'm saying that is I've been blessed. I look for what's the main thing that can put us all together to clear this cloud, to clear this fog away, so we can all see what's going on. We can know as much as the man that's sitting on the Supreme Court, as much as Alan Dershowitz, as much as the great one, Mark Levin. How is that possible? We don't have to go to school, nothing, because the founding fathers knew once we were freed from the constraints of tyranny, we'd emerge as people of common sense and could understand everything. But we're under tyranny, and we're under leadership of people, scholars, who do not understand the Constitution. So let me tell you something about the Constitution. This is something you should teach everyone in your families. You won't hear it from these people. What is the Constitution? Very simple. It's a declaration of war on tyranny. That is the Constitution. That is the rule of law. What's the First Amendment? A free press. How come we're free? Because we have a declaration of war on tyranny. Anyone that would come to power and take away our free press, you know who they are. I just talked about them. The ones that enshrined themselves as God and declared war on God, asking allegiance to them instead of God. Every amendment is a declaration of war on tyranny, and that's why we're free. That's why we have the freedom of the press. That's why we have freedom of religion. Because we have, the Constitution has declared war on the godless ones, on tyranny, that would ever come to power and strip us of our freedoms. And once you know that, now you know who you are. Now we know who we are as Americans. Now we can be very proud of who we are. We are the ones that are carrying the stance against tyranny. And why did God create America? There's only one reason: to triumph over tyranny. The battle in the world is between tyranny, those who support tyranny as the rule of law, and us who support the rule of law that stands with God. Those who stand with God stand against tyranny. Stop. How's that? So I'd like to repeat this one more time because it's that important. Again, what was this act of treachery that our founding fathers talked about and gained victory in a war of independence from England in order to gain the full measure of their freedoms. They called it tyranny. Where did this act of treachery come from? What is the seed that produced its roots, the source of its nourishment? The first freedom that we had was freedom from religious tyranny. It was the tyranny of Britain that used Jesus Christ's name to collect taxes in his name. And anyone that opposed them, what they were doing was ostracized. That's tyranny, using God's name to ostracize people is called tyranny. So what happened there? Something that we have to straighten out right now. We didn't say it would have to be a separation of church and state so we could fulfill that mandate in our own laws to have no one central religion. That was not the case. What we did is we changed the configuration of that kind of governance of church and state away from, freed from the configuration of church and state. That's when the Constitution came in, that we would not have one central religion in our government because it could be used as tyranny against any of the other religions of the same religion who had a different belief about Christ or the meaning of the second coming, or whether it was the Jewish law or the different positions of conservative, any of these laws. So therefore, that's why we have that amendment. The First Amendment is freedom from religious tyranny is our first freedom. How did that come about? Because man started to think. He was free to think in his own mind about his future with God and his place in the universe. And that sparked something in the American psyche that brought about the change we have today. That people would stand up against any tyranny that would stop them for their freedoms of thought and what they thought was best for them. That was the greatness of the Constitution. Again, I'd like to repeat something that's so important to give us a real deep understanding of what happened, why America was free. And I mentioned it before, but I want to say it again because it's the basis of everything. What was the act of treachery that our founding fathers talked about and gained victory over in a war of independence from England in order to gain the full measure of their freedoms? They called it tyranny. Then again, the question is, where did this act of treachery arise from? No one asked. They always say treachery, treason. What is it? I'm saying, where did it come from? What is the seed that provided its roots for the source of its nourishment? How did it keep nourishing tyranny? How did tyranny keep spreading? What was the seed? The answer becomes very clear. Our founding fathers, stop. I don't know if I said created in his own image. Did I say that?
I don't remember hearing it.
Well, let's do it again.
Okay.
That's it. Stop it and we'll do it again. It's just a repeat. So there's something I have to repeat so you know, because it's the key to everything. What was the act of treachery that our founding fathers talked about and gained victory in the War of Independence from England in order to gain the full measure of their freedoms? They called it tyranny. Now, something no one ever did before. Where did this act of treachery arise from? Where did it come from? What was the seed that provided its roots for the source of its nourishment so it would continue to flourish? The Bible introduces us to the destruction that ensues through tyranny when men, instead of honoring the sovereignty of God, use his mortal power to lord over and repress other men demanding allegiance to him, to a God that he creates now in his own image. In other words, he declared war on God and his principles. What happened in England is the King of England was collecting taxes under Jesus' name. And he was the head of the church and state, what they called the church and state. Now, if you dare criticize that Church of England for doing that, then you were suppressed. People would die because of their rebellion against it. And that is called religious tyranny. What our founding fathers did is they overcame that religious tyranny. And how did they do it? They reconfigured that governmental structure of church and state with a constitution. Stop. What the founding fathers did, what our revolutionary men did, is they reconfigured the church and state. And how did they do it? With a constitution that would no longer have one religion representing us, all of us. Because you could say that the Church of England said they believed in Christ, but they were treating Christ as a hammer to get your taxes. And if you didn't believe in them, you'd suffer the consequences. So we can't have any one religion. There are many different groups. There are Baptists. There are so many types of Christians, each with their own form. So we can't have one Christian, Christ, as the center of our worship. There's just too many variations. The same is Jewish law. We can't have Jewish law as the center because there are conservative Jews. There are ultra religious Jews, different types of beliefs. So each one could be battling each other and we'd never be free. So that's what the Constitution did. And that's what the founders did. They said they would put God as the person of worship. No particular religion. That's what it says. We do not have any particular religion representing us in the United States of America. We only worship God. That is all these religions with their intent for us to be free, prosperous, and freed from the constraints of tyranny. And that is the rule of law of the Constitution of the United States, period. So when I said at the beginning, what is the Constitution? How do you say the Constitution in a couple of words? No one can say it. I ask so many people, tell me 7 words. What is the Constitution? No one can say it. Again, the Constitution is a declaration of war on tyranny. That's it. The rest is go study. Study the amendments and know how we keep ourselves free from tyranny. The godless ones, as I said, those who created God in their own image and want allegiance to them, like in Cuba, Red China, Russia, North Korea, all the same. The Islamic nations, all the same. Denying people their God-given rights. And that's the person sitting in the White House right now, denying us our God-given rights, our freedom of the press, our freedom of religion, our freedom of redress of grievances. We can't even have a free trial. We're under communist rule and have been since Biden became president. Stop. Now I'm going to tell you something. When you hear it, you're going to wonder, what the hell happened here? How come we missed this? After World War II, there was only one invasion in the free world that occurred. And everyone thinks it's Ukraine. But no. It was an invasion on American soil led by Joseph Biden. Stop. Joseph Biden was a communist, like Obama before him, like Sharpton before him, like Farrakhan before him, and they promised to fundamentally change America. Why? Because America was a systemic, racist, capitalist, criminal enterprise that has been taking advantage of people of color since its founding. They have oppressed them, denied their rights, persecuted them, put them in jail, murdered them, and denied them access to the mainstream of American society. That's what Biden said. And Biden said, let everyone come here now. He invited the world in. Why did he invite the world in? This is why. Because he had to build back better America and destroy this capitalist system that produced all this greed for us white capitalist pigs. Everything that we gained was on their backs, according to him. And now it was time for people to come of color and the oppressed and reclaim everything they lost here in America. That's what this was about. That was the open border invasion. That's correct. President, who is the greatest threat to the free world? Everyone thought, oh, it's China. No, it was Joseph Biden. Joseph Biden was the first communist godfather commander-in-chief who imposed America's open border invasion insurrection mandate. He gave his blessings, the redistribution of China's fentanyl distributors into USA. His insurrection, His insurrection has turned America into a killing field, causing the death of fentanyl by 300,000 youths and adults across the nation. He approved of 6 million illegal immigrants to enter our country, defy our laws with his heartfelt open border policy, then providing them with free food, housing, and a fully woke education. Who will they be defending in the future? He was flatlining our free market, competitive, prosperous economy because, no, stop. His overextended budget, which was funding one world programs, it became because Biden believes that America's prosperity was built on oppression and slavery. He's slowly nationalizing our banks, devaluing the dollar of people's. He is, let it go because we can edit it out. He's slowly nationalizing our banks, devaluing the value of our dollar and the clients' accounts. The government would be able to watch how people spend their money, close their accounts, or even just take money. In other words, the worry is that a digital dollar will be more than one way the government to control us and our money. What I'm saying is, he's now taking over the banks and demanding from the banks what you're doing, how much money you're taking, how much money you're giving out, so we can watch how to take your taxes, or at any moment take your money. This is nothing but communist control. Our youth, they've been totally woke in our public schools. Children are told they do not have to have permission from their parents for any personal decisions, which will be irreversible changes in their lives. This is approved by a fully indoctrinated teachers who support a fully woke communist agenda where the children become the property of the state, where there are no more parental rights. This is exactly how Mao Zedong was able to achieve his countercultural revolution, by turning the youth against their parents so they became the property of the state, the primary weapon Mao used to turn China into a fully blown communist state. His party is a living state, period. The FBI and the DOJ are now one and the same. I have to stop it.
Go. Stan?
The FBI, DOJ are one and the same. KGB. A free press and Pravda. Control press. One and the same. So everyone yells out, we're being weaponized. They're weaponizing everything. But no one ever says what they're weaponizing. Their weaponizing means communism has taken over. They are denying all your God-given rights on any level that you can imagine. And now you all have become slaves to the state. You're sitting there and watching them destroy America from within. Stop.
Very good.
So what do? Well, first we must understand truly what the Constitution is. So what can we do? First, we must understand what the Constitution is and why, if we protect it, we will triumph over this tyranny that brought us to this point. We have to understand that we have a shared destiny. Both nations, Israel and America, are bound by a sacred covenant and a constitutional mandate, those being the lifeblood of liberty's decrees, that we must not ever abandon Israel. Israel is our family. And what is that mandate? Is to triumph over tyranny. Where do we find proof of this sacred covenant as the very foundation of our own laws? Not only Israel's laws, but God's laws. Look up as you approach the east pediment of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. There, front and center, is Moses holding two tablets. Stop. Holding two tablets, the Ten Commandments, seating among all the statues of the world, of the top lawgivers, and there he is, front and center. As you enter the Supreme Court, you pass through two large oak doors, upon which two stone tablets, Roman numerals 1 through 10, enumerating the Ten Commandments. There is no doubt that this special relationship we have as Israel is different than any of all our allies. Our relationship with the Ten Commandments, from which all our laws are based, is unequivocally cemented within our judicial system, and from where our moral imperative originates, that those who stand against oppression and triumph over tyranny. And where does this law originate, the Ten Commandments? It's the law. One second. What's the law? I forgot. You stopped, right?
No.
Stop. Where's the original? And what is that? Where does that originate? It originates from Mosaic law, the first 5 chapters of the Bible. That's God's rule of all our laws, Mosaic law, which connects Israel and America to a common denominator. Actually, America and Israel is an army of one. We're not separated. Stop. All the teachers, all the rabbis, the preachers, everyone is out there talking about their religion, about anti-Semitism, how we're going to stop it. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Jews in one place, Christians in another, this group fighting the other, and no one knows where to go. Everyone's looking for Moses in the wrong places. That's the problem. Here's the answer that they never thought of. When I was out there trying to spread the Never Again Is Now badge of honor, which is Never Again Is Now, which I've been through 3 countries and put it on thousands and thousands of leaders. Every time I asked a preacher or someone who was a leader, you know, how about the Constitution? You know, we're people here in America, we have to defend it. And they would say, what's the Constitution have to do with it? They were so wrapped up in their religious law that they forgot the rule of law. Mosaic law is secular and religious. It's all our laws. It's what keeps us free from tyranny. So now, something very different happens. Stop. One thing that the Jews and the Christians in America have not realized, they're just waiting for Jesus to come or the Messiah to come, or praying, what are we going to do? What's going to do? Where's the answer? And the answer was always there. It was right in front of us. The Constitution of the United States is run by Mosaic law, God's rule of laws. So, when we defend the Constitution of the United States of America, we're able to keep our freedoms, our religious freedoms, our freedom of the press. All the 27 amendments come into play. And there's one thing we have to understand, the Christians and Jews, you are citizens of the United States of America. And if you want to keep your freedoms, you better protect the Constitution of the United States of America. So what I'm saying is, what's the way forward? We cannot wait another 2 years. We cannot wait another 8 months while 11 million people come into this country. By that time, it'll be too late even for Trump to say, I'm throwing them out. How do we support Trump? What can we do? As I said, we, the Jewish people and the Christian people, have to come together as a force of one, united together to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And then what do we do at that point? We can no longer wait for Congress. They're lame ducks. They had 3 years to change this, and the borders are still open. Now we have to close them. So what do? The Jews and the Christians come together and march right down into Washington. Not going with a single shot, but following in the footsteps of Martin Luther King. Because if we start a war, there won't be anything left in the world to save. Once America goes down, the lamp of liberty is shut down. But if we go down there in force, not with 1 million, not with 2 million, not with 3 million, but with 4 or 5 million people marching down into Congress and demanding, we no longer will pay you 1 cent. You have been using our own hard-earned dollars to fund our demise and create a communist nation that in the end will kill us all. That day is over. You're not getting any more of our money. And you're going to close the borders now, or we're not leaving here until you do. So that's your choice. You can't kill 6 million of us and put us under arrest. We're not giving you any more money. Secondly, people are now running in our streets, murdering us, killing us. Why? What did that come about? Because someone believed, Black Lives Matter and the rest, that America hates black people and they're there to destroy them and kill them, like Floyd, that started this mess. So they don't respect our laws, so they'll kill us wherever they see us, in the subways and the trains. And if you stand up, you're indicted, not them. Two-tier system of justice. That's where it came from. Because if you're the enemy of the black person that could be murdered, they have every right to hurt you, to kill you. So you're indicted. You're put away because you're an enemy of the state now. The Black Lives Matter state, the communist state. And that's why we have been being attacked in the streets. Now, as far as everything else is concerned, stop. Begin. Now that we have Mosaic law, and we understand we have God's law, now we're living by God's law, now we're on God's time. And the call has finally come. The call around the world that started here, the oppression of God through Biden and his group, tyranny's assassins, and it's spreading throughout the world to Israel everywhere. And who are we and what are we going to do? When we see those people in the streets, Jews and Christians, unite together and stop them. Work together. Protect each other. We do not have to take the slap in the face. This is our country. We did not come here that we can't wear a yarmulke, or we can't walk in peace, we can't wear a Jewish star. That's Nazi Germany. We came here to get rid of that, to leave that, because this is God's law, Mosaic law, that keeps us free from tyranny. America was here to triumph over tyranny. That's it, period. We have to know that. So now there's a different feeling. How about the Supreme Court? How do you know if a law is constitutional if the Supreme Court themselves are making the right decisions? You should be able to know. You don't have to be a constitutional scholar like Mark Levin or the rest. You don't need to know. You need to only know one thing, the rule of law. Again, what is the rule of law? The Constitution is a declaration of war on tyranny. Tyranny, where does it come from? Those who've declared war on God and enshrined themselves as God, asking people to give their allegiance to him instead of God. So, recently, the Supreme Court gave Joseph Biden a victory in the borders, saying that he has a right to cut the fences in the borders. I have a question for everyone on that Supreme Court. Did they know what's going on? That President Joseph Biden has broken every law, has let gangs into this country, has declared war on the Constitution, and you made a judgment in his favor. You've broken the rule of law. The rule of law is very simple. What is the gold standard that makes laws constitutional? It stands against tyranny. Does it deny us our God-given rights or not? That's all you got to know. And Joseph Biden is denying us our God-given rights. And that's how you know the rule of law that gives you the vision to understand exactly you could be on the Supreme Court. Stop.
Excellent.
Is it white? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, looks like shit. We reached a point where we cannot sustain this country for another 8 months with 11 million people coming in here on November 6th. It'll never happen. We have been fundamentally changed. So we have to close these borders now. We can no longer wait for Congress. They've had 3 years to do this. So there's only one people, there's only we the people that are left to do it. Our founding fathers knew, once freed from the constraints of tyranny, we would emerge as scholars of common sense in our pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, freed from the constraints of tyranny, freed from seeking approval of the state for all our actions. Therefore, since our representatives have fallen down, now it's up to us to close these borders. And how do we do that? What's the one thing that we know we can close the borders? Stop. Once we understand that Israel and America are bound by a sacred covenant, a constitutional mandate that is the lifeblood of liberty's decrees that keeps us free. What am I talking about? Without the 10 Commandments, there would be no realization of the laws that we have in America that keep us free. There would be no America. And where do these laws come from? How do we know this? What is the proof of this sacred covenant as the very foundation of our laws? Look up as you approach the least pediment of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. There, front and center, is Moses holding 2 tablets. The 10 Commandments. Seated among all the statues of the world, there is Moses, front and center, signifying Mosaic law. Then if you haven't got the message yet, you enter the Supreme Court. You pass through 2 huge oak doors, which upon 2 stone tablets, numerals number 1 through 10 on each of the doors. There is no doubt this special relationship we have with Israel is different from all the other allies. Our relationship with the 10 Commandments from our founding laws are based, is unequivocally cemented in our judicial system. It is from which our moral imperative originates, that our stands against oppression and triumph over tyranny. It is where all laws are made and followed. This is crystal clear, and which is framed in the Constitution of the laws of equity and morality and humanity, the very ideals on which our free republic stands. To make it very simple, the Constitution, its laws that protect us, is Mosaic laws. It comes from the first 5 chapters of the Bible. Those are God's laws. The Constitution is embodied by God's laws in our stands against tyranny, which is Mosaic laws. And what does that realization bring us? It brings us to a mighty, wonderful, clear realization that no one has seen before. In this country, everyone's standing around. Oh, Jesus will come save us. Don't worry. What, are you going to vote for Jesus Christ? Or the Messiah is coming. Don't worry. As if mystically we don't do anything. Stay in our churches, waiting for what? Everyone thinks it's doomsday, but it's not doomsday. We're now on God's time. This is the time. It's darkest before the dawn. This is the time that we appear. Just like George Washington appeared out of the darkness before the dawn to catch his enemies into broad daylight and win. One thing that the Christians and Jews must do right now is become an army of one to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. We're all citizens first. This is our religions. But our religions and our first freedom is defended by the Constitution of the United States of America, which is under Mosaic laws, God's rule of law. And once we do that, then everything changes. Then Jews and Christians together can march down to Washington and demand the borders must be closed. Am I talking about 20 Jews and Christians? 30? I'm talking about millions. 5 millions. The appearance of God's army here in America starts to arise. It's an awe, it's a shock. Who would have thought it? No one could see it coming. And this is the beginning of the battle of the triumph over tyranny with God's army. And what do we demand of Joseph Biden and tyranny's assassins who want to destroy us? They're using our money to destroy us, to kill us, to destroy the covenant, to destroy God's law, Mosaic law, and replace it with tyranny. So we give allegiance to them, the tyranny of the state. We all become slaves. And we tell them, not one more cent. We're not going to be under your law. We're not going to fund our own demise. That's over. Secondly, we are held together here by Mosaic law. That's Jewish law, America's constitutional law, Mosaic law. And we're here to defend Israel. You're here to destroy Israel. We're here to say, you stick with Israel, stop pressuring Israel and destroying her, making her again team up with people and terrorists, saying that's the solution, that she has to back off. No. The people marching in the streets that are here, the Palestinian Americans, not one of them is carrying an American flag and being thankful that they're free. And in Gaza, where they are, they all declared war on the Constitution and the Jewish people. The kids in the beginning are told with machine guns to kill us. There's no love lost. We are fighting Nazis, like in World War II. And we got to clear out that nest. Otherwise, Israel's gone. So Biden, back off. Either you support Israel or you're not getting a penny from us. We're going to give our money to Israel. We're going to fight here in America that we all stand up for Israel, not for a ceasefire like those lunatics marching in the streets. And also, finally, we're not going to take it anymore. No more are we going to be attacked because we're Jewish. Because we came to America to be free from that, and you're still attacking us here in America? I wear a yarmulke? Let me tell you something. 500,000 Jewish vets fought to defend the Constitution of the United States of America in World War II. I'll go to hell before you tell me I have no rights here, that I can't wear this, and you're going to attack me, and this government is no good. You don't believe in it. Well, we fought for it. So Jews and Christians unite together, work together. And when they come out to march, meet them, not with 100 people, not with 500 people, with 10,000 people. Move them off the streets. Get them out of here. Let them know if they attack us what they're going to get. Because Joseph Biden is not sending anyone to stop it because he wants it to end it. That's exactly what he wants. He wants to take over America because we're a criminal enterprise. And the Israelis and the Jews, since they love this, our laws, since they love free enterprise, then they're the enemy too. So they got to get killed. Now, either we do that or we're doomed. And we could shut this down in 2 months. And that's how you help Trump. You don't sit here no more. Don't watch it on TV. Get off your duff. And everyone, let's go. It's time that we stood up and stood with Moses, because right now, everyone in America, the Jews and the Christians, are looking for Moses in the wrong places. He's right there, right now, in the laws that govern us. So let's get together and defend this Constitution. We got to vote for it. We got to march down and secure it. And we have no other choice, or we're going to lose everything here. Finally, about the Supreme Court. How great is this one rule of law? How wonderful this rule of law is that we're under with a Constitution. That we know exactly who the enemy is, what the Supreme Court knows, what Alan Dershowitz knows, what Ben Shapiro knows, all these discussions with all the rabbis, what they haven't understood yet. The one thing that we do know, that it's the stance against tyranny, the godless ones, is the key to understanding what makes a law a constitutional law, not like segregation. But what is the gold standard for what makes any law a constitutional law? It's simple. It goes back to the rule of law. Our stance against tyranny. That's simple. Does that law that comes up to be passed meet the standards that of our constitutional republic? Does it deny us any of our God-given rights or any of the rights in those amendments that keeps us free? That's all we got to know. And what is amazing and what is frightening is the Supreme Court decided to give Biden a decision to stop them from building the fences in Texas to keep them coming over to the borders. With the Supreme Court totally ignorant of the fact that President Biden has opened up the borders, declared war on the Constitution, let illegals in, let fentanyl be distributed here by Chinese distributors and gangs. He's broken the law and he's determined to destroy the Constitution, and you made a decision in his favor. You've broken the rule of law. Now, everyone knows what the Supreme Court should know. You can know any law that comes up, does it deny us our God-given rights? Then you'll know if it's constitutional or not. That is the beauty, the wonderful opening of the eyes of that one rule of law that unites us all as a nation and keeps us free. Stop.
Okay, go.
Recently, Mark Levin said, they're shredding our Constitution. He didn't explain what they're shredding. What are they shredding? Again, they're shredding our rule of law. The Constitution is embodiment of our rule of law, and they're trying to replace that rule of law. And what do you have left once you take God out of the Constitution? The only thing that remains is tyranny. In 1954, they added the words, "one nation under God," to protect us from the rise of communism, thinking that will stop communism. But unfortunately, 70 years later, there's an attack on our Constitution by President Biden and his assassins that are destroying the very laws that keep us free, our stance against tyranny, our rule of law, which is embodied by the Constitution. He's shredding it. So I decided, if the Constitution is what keeps us free, if that's what we give our allegiance to keep us free and protect, why is it not in our Pledge of Allegiance, especially now, especially at this time? when communists are running our nation. We need to change our pledge to protect the Constitution. So I decided to add the Constitution into our Pledge of Allegiance. Why? The veterans that go to war, some die. They never have a chance to live. They put their life on the line. Now, how do we repay the debt to the veterans? You can't repay the debt, they're dead. But what can we do? We can honor their valor, that they fought for this Constitution so we could be free. So now we will honor the Constitution and protect it in honor of them, so we all remain free. And that's why I said, put it into the Constitution, put our pledge into the Constitution. Then it's quite different. George Washington said, the Constitution is the guideline I will never abandon. In other words, he will never abandon the rule of law or stance against tyranny. Therefore, now, when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, when our children say the Pledge of Allegiance, it's quite different. We're pledging allegiance to protect the Constitution of the United States, enemies foreign, domestic, because we're protecting God's rule of law that keeps us free from those that would come, the godless ones, to destroy us. And every child should know that that's what he's pledging his allegiance to as he grows up, so he understands how to keep our government free in perpetuity, forever, and never happen again. Also, another thing occurs. Every child will know, every veteran that went and fought and died for our freedoms, died to keep us free, to keep the Constitution intact, and they will forever be praising them, meeting them, saluting them. And that's how our vets should be treated. When we greet them, we should say, thank you for defending the Constitution so I could remain free. And because you did it, I will defend the Constitution with my pledge. Can you imagine that? That is how we keep our government free in perpetuity, like it said and keep cut in perpetuity. Now, people might laugh and scoff and say, oh, we can't do the Pledge of Allegiance in the schools. Doesn't really matter. And when you hear them do the Pledge of Allegiance, you don't hear any spirit. The heart's not into it. Some they do. It's just like a cultural thing. It can't be. What we give our allegiance to as a people defines what we stand for, what we will defend against as a people and as a nation. It represents the individuals of a nation that have decided to cast their lot, their lives, their fortunes, in our case, even to the extent of risking their lives in war to defend its principles. The essence of the allegiance is revealed in its simplest form, for the pledge that a citizen gives to a country in its flag. The pledge leaves no doubt to what position each nation takes among the world concerning the type of governance they embrace, concerning the protection of their citizens that they will risk their lives for. That's how important the Pledge of Allegiance is. We have to go back to that. Those are the simple things that made us feel we were Americans. I felt it as a kid. I felt so grateful I was here. We felt that, and we stopped feeling it. We gave it away. So where do we start? Start at the rallies. Start the pledges there. Start this pledge when you start every rally about defending the Constitution, about standing against tyranny. Start about one world or one nation freed from tyranny for liberty and justice for all. Now, what does it mean, freed from tyranny? When George Washington visited the Jewish temple in Rhode Island, the first temple, he told the Jewish people, "You're the people of Moses, and the descendants of Moses, and you could sit freely here under any tree, because we know as long as the laws of your belief does not contradict the laws of our Constitution, we will defend your beliefs." And that is the stance against tyranny. That is the rule of law. No one can come here with their religion who has declared war on people through acts of treachery and murder and should be honored. We are a Western civilization. Our founding fathers were physicians, and they left us the key to defeating tyranny. The rule of law and the Constitution. That is all Western ways. That is what keeps our republic intact. That is what makes us diverse, because each one of us will stand against tyranny that would deny us our God-given rights. And that is why we're a Judeo-Christian nation that stands up, and we must remain so. We don't mix with people who want to kill us because of their beliefs, whether they're religious or secular. Period. One very important thing that must be mentioned here. I want to know, how is it possible in 3 years America is fully woke, almost broke, and the House of Liberty has almost been burnt to the ground? How did it happen? What happened here? I'll tell you what happened. When Biden opened up borders, he let in 6 million people. He let in drugs. He let in cartels, gangs to our country. And we didn't say anything. For 2.5 years, no one said anything. Then suddenly, 2.5 years later, Tucker stands up, Tucker Carlson. We've been invaded. My gosh. After 6 million people came here, they're killing us in the streets. We've just been invaded. It took them 2.5 years to say that. Is he mad? And then on top of it, he said, we're being invaded by China. No, Tucker Carlson. We're invaded by Joe Biden, because you wouldn't recognize he was a communist, and neither did anyone else. And now, the second wave that came of invasion, you're all screaming, let's go get them. Come on. We got to get them. We got to stop it now. We got to stop the violence. You cannot stop the violence. Only we the people can stop the violence and end it by uniting Jews and Christians to stand with the Constitution and meet these people head on. That's the only way to stop it. Joseph Biden is not going to stop it. He wants this to happen. He wants to destroy America. He told you that. We're a criminal enterprise. That's why you have a two-tiered justice system, in case you didn't figure it out yet, which you still have not. Because people like Black Lives Matter, Farrakhan, Sharpton, Obama believe this nation was built on people's oppression and slavery. That the black people, colored people, they had no laws to protect them. There was no rule of law for them. They were found guilty because of the color of their skin. And because of the color of their skin, they weren't allowed into mainstream society. When it happened with Floyd, then it all jumped off. Finally, they said, we're not going to obey your laws because your laws and your Constitution, which you're following, is to kill us all. That's all you've been doing. We're still slaves here. You're still killing us in the streets. So guess what? We're in the middle of a revolution in the United States of America. For 3 years, we've been in a revolution. And that two-tier justice system, it means they get out of jail, no bail free for attacking us, and then we're indicted. Why? Because according to Black Lives Matter, according to Farrakhan, according to Biden, we are the criminals that turned against black people and slaughtered them. And now it's okay for them to slaughter us. And if you open up your mouth, you're an enemy of the state. It doesn't matter. We're going to lock you up because we've taken over the country. No more figuring out now why we're being attacked or why there's a two-tier justice system. Of course, Trump is part of the two-tier justice. He's a white capitalist who has declared war on all poor people. That's what we do. We deny them all their freedoms. Tyrannies are not culpable anymore. It's us. We're colonialists. That's where it's coming from. And Trump is standing there defending our rule of law from these people who have no idea what the rule of law is. The most incredible moment in the history of civilization came when our founding fathers wrote these documents of freedom. The Bill of Rights, the Constitution. What they did at that moment was show, yes, it was a mirror of their own inequities. That's what the Bill of Rights saying. You were slaveholders. But something more incredible was happening. It meant that slavery, like Obama said, was not our original sin. Slavery is the sin of every one of our forefathers in humanity when they would attack each other, different groups, like in Africa, Muslim groups, in the Western world, Nazis, and this group. And they'd capture people and enslave them and rape their women. We're all guilty of the original sin of slavery. And that's the greatness of the Constitution and what they wrote, that we could put that asunder in the past and move towards a greater union with these documents. And finally, Martin Luther King, he topped it off after a civil war that all people, regardless of color, were created equal, and they finally got the right to vote, go to our schools, and enter the mainstream of society. Now, there are those, like Sharpton and the rest, that say there's nothing redeemable. We're all still slaves. And they want to destroy this union. And there are people like us who say we're going towards making a greater union until we're freed from tyranny. That is the battle we're facing. You choose your side. Stop. What do you think of that so far? Okay, one quick thing. You probably missed it. One of the most important things that was said by Laura Ingraham. She was talking about, what was going on, but she said, we made a mistake. We should have known this 3 years ago. 3 years ago when Biden said, people come into our country, inviting everyone to come here. He said he was opening up the door. She said, we should have had our lawyers there and stopped him. And she just said it in a casual way and then went on to say again, oh, look, they're attacking. Miss Ingraham, do you realize the mistake that you made? Do you realize what happened? Because of that single mistake, 6 million people came here in 2.5 years, and we did nothing about it. You said nothing. They distributed fentanyl. They killed 300,000 of our youth, and it's still counting. And you said nothing at all. Then suddenly, 3 years later, someone says, there's an invasion. Now there's an invasion. But you don't say it's from the open borders. You don't say who's invading and why, that it's communist. You can't get that. You still didn't get it. And we suffered all that losses. America became fully woke, almost broke, and the House of Liberty was being burnt to the ground, and you said nothing. Not a weep, not a whimper, nothing. No one said, it's an invasion. You never heard the words from anyone, from Levin, no one. What happened? And that's okay. That's just great. You think that's okay? That you did that to this country? It's not acceptable. And that's why we, the people, have to stand up now and take over. We can't have Keystone cops leading us. You must give your allegiance to the person and the law. We have to learn that. We give our allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America, first and foremost, and defend it. Then we always know, once the rule of law, if someone's coming in here and deny us our God-given rights by opening the borders. We already should have stopped them. This is the greatest blunder ever made in the history of our nation. And when Laura Ingraham said it, she said it in such a passing manner, like it didn't matter. No, you're responsible for it, all of you. And now we, the people, have to pick up the slack because you weren't keeping the same time as the clock of those that would destroy us. You weren't on the same clock. Stop. Now I'm going to continue. Did you stop it?
Okay.
The same thing happened to Israel. I remember 2 days after the attack, Brett Hume on Fox News said, "Oh, geez, we made a big mistake. They were terrorists. We're asking Israel to deal with terrorists." Oh yeah, that was a big mistake. 2 minutes later, they're starting to plan what Israel should do. You mean, since the beginning of Israel, all the people blown up by terrorists, attacked by terrorists, killed and murdered by Hamas, by Fatah, by the PLO, was okay. They thought we could make peace with them because they wanted peace in the Middle East. They thought if we could make peace with them, then oil prices will be fine and the world will be at peace. So you held Israel hostage and you sacrificed her. And finally you say, oh my God, how do you repay that? Are you insane what you're saying about Israel now has to again, with Biden, work with the PLO? Because the poor people, the Nazis that support a nuclear bomb over Israel to kill her and to wipe her off the face of the earth, we have to help them. And Israel, back off. No, Israel, we don't back off. Actually, some lady said, Israel is the Messiah now, or the Mashiach, because she's taking the lead to stand against tyranny in the world. There is no other nation helping her. Not the United States, and not the Jews and the Christians in America, who should have been pressuring Biden. We have to support Israel. We support and stand against tyranny. And what is tyranny? All those people that want to kill the people of Israel and you and me. And that's why I wear this Jewish star and put it on thousands of people in the black neighborhoods, white presidents all around the world, to say, once you start up with the Jews, you're starting up with the apple of God's eye. You're starting up with Mosaic law. And what's going to happen? If you turn against Israel, it says in the Bible, those who support Israel will thrive, and those that turn against her will be cursed. And right now we're cursed. Look at our nation. We're cursed. We got to break the curse. Jews and Christians stand up right now. Defend the law. Defend Israel. Close the borders. Stop paying these people for our demise. And then you'll see a difference in our nation. The difference in the feeling of our people. Right now, we're just concentrating. Oh, this person's going to win this campaign, and the bigger picture is gone. No one talks about defending the Constitution. Nowhere. So we remain free. Which one? What candidate? I don't hear it. President Trump is defending the Constitution. But President Trump and everyone say they are defending the Constitution. The ones that our founders made so we could be eternally free from the thugs of tyranny, the godless ones. The question is, how did communists take over this country? Stop 1 second.
Okay.
In 2019, I wrote an op-ed making sense out of chaos. Everyone is asking what is going on in Portland, Seattle, Chicago, where their cities are being held hostages by rioters, looters, and criminals. You remember that. The mayors of these cities that are now in chaos, with the support of their governors, are doing what any communist in a banana republic does to overthrow a democratic republic. People still do not believe that this could be true, especially in America. Why, it's simple. Our leaders and our conservative talk hosts, like Fox News, refuse to say without reservation America has been thrown into a full-blown insurrection launched by a newly formed national communist American racist party, formerly known as the Democrats. This new party has become the envy of every new dictator that is sent out to rule the world. The battle lines have been drawn. We must look at the entire picture to see the real enemy we face, to ensure that we are fighting on the right battlefield, where the soul of our nation will be waged. We must not stand by and let Minister Farrakhan, Obama, Sharpton, the new leaders of the American fascist, anti-Christian, Jew-hating Democratic Party, who planted the seeds of hate that gave birth to Black Lives Matter, Antifa, in order to give victory to radical Islam and worldwide global tyranny. If you doubt that this is the case, a article appeared in the news one day after I wrote this op-ed. CAR, C-A-R, joins with Black Lives Matter and calls for Islamic revolution in America. These new fascists, whose plan is clear, to establish a new America, one that will reject the Constitution and abolish our sovereignty as a free nation. They are condemning America as a white stronghold that threatens the lives of African Americans daily, thereby justifying the establishment of new sovereignties within our nation, within our cities, with no respect for our rule of law. They want to replace our repressive racist system with one that can protect their people and provide them with the security they need. Who do you think will be replacing the police and providing security? Just ask Farrakhan, the leader of the Nation of Islam, or Black Lives Matter, or Antifa, and Sharpton, and the Democratic Party is totally bought into this deceptive movement. Their declaration on American values and America's unjust treatment of minorities is systematic and reversible. Thus, step by step, they are separating themselves from America's sovereignty, which perhaps is their plan all along, regardless of whether they win or lose any upcoming elections. They are condemning America as a white stronghold that threatens the lives of, I'm repeating it again because it's so important, Americans daily, thus justifying the establishment of new sovereignties within our nations, with cities with no respect for our rule of laws. Stop.
Okay.
And it's spreading like wildfire across the nation. And it's spreading like wildfire across the United States, and it's coming to a town near you. First, the colonization of New York City, then the next democratic run city, and the next, until the movement has taken over with its own rules of laws, regulations, lawlessness, enforces, which is ultimately the plan from the outset. The eruption was never about George Floyd, but the unfortunate events that day provided a perfect storm for the slow-boiling, deceptive, opportunistic Sharpton, Farrakhan, and Obama to overthrow America campaign. Stop. I wrote this as a prediction of what was to come. I said exactly what was going to happen because I knew who Sharpton was. Nothing prophetic, but people didn't know. Our people didn't know. They couldn't predict this. The fact that I could predict exactly what could happen is because I knew the rule of law, that these people were standing against the rule of law, were here to deny us our God-given rights because they believed we were a criminal enterprise. Lastly, I'd like to quote three things to you. First, it's about the Pledge of Allegiance and how important the pledge is with the rule of law. Seeking God's righteousness, our triumph over tyranny, in our Pledge of Allegiance. That's what our Pledge of Allegiance is. Seeking God's righteousness, our triumph over tyranny, in our Pledge of Allegiance, because we're pledging to defend the rule of law, which is Mosaic's law, which is God's rule of all the laws, to triumph over tyranny. Secondly, (2024), uniting as one, our path to victory. Establishing the indisputable connection between Jewish law, Mosaic law, and American constitutional rule of law. It stands against tyranny. Born from a biblical point of departure, the connection that defines America's core values and sustains the lifeblood of liberty's decrees that guarantees our triumph over tyranny.
Stanley. Okay, we're rolling.
Right? 224, uniting as one, our path to victory. Establishing the indisputable connection between Jewish law, Mosaic law, and American constitutional rule of law, it stands against tyranny, born from a biblical point of departure. This connection defines America's core values and sustains the lifeblood of liberty's degrees that guarantees our triumph over tyranny. In America, we are biblical constitutional warriors. Jewish people are biblical constitutional warriors. We must defend the Constitution. It's the only way forward. First of all, I want to thank President Trump, for without him, I wouldn't even be talking here today. He made America great again, but he saved America. For without him, there would have been no more America left if the other party, after Obama got in, they were going to destroy everything. Secondly, there's another man I want to thank. His name is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is preserving our free press, the most essential thing that we have to keep us free is our press. Under tyranny, they cut out your tongue So you have nothing to say. You're speechless. But Elon Musk did that, and he's doing something more. I'm here to support Elon Musk in a different way. We have to rid the world of this tyranny so we can make the next step we need to take to go into God's universe and explore his universe. And Elon Musk is an explorer, and he's going to take us there. And that's why we should honor him also, like we honor President Trump. So you know, Elon Musk is a citizen of the United States of America and a great patriot. So those are the two people I want to thank, and those are the people I support. And I support every American to understand that they now can open their eyes because they have the rule of law. They know that the Constitution stands against tyranny. They know that any law, that anyone tries to deny our free press, our freedoms, our right of religion, any of us, are people who have declared war on God, because they have created God in their own image and declared war on God since biblical times and his children. Therefore, it's time we unite, and I hope you can help find a way and unite together with me and others. We have to get this done now. We have to get this done. Jews and America and Christians must unite now. Then we're working together with Moses. Right now, we're still looking for Moses, but while we're waiting for him, let's unite. And then I'm sure the real leader that will take us through Mosaic law and protect the Constitution will appear and lead the charge to help President Trump become President of the United States of America. Thank you. I appreciate everything, and the cameraman that stayed here and his crew. Can I give your name? When you say your name.
Tom
Tom?
Shinstein.
Tom Schaefer.
Shinstein.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Shinstein.
I'm hard of hearing, guys.
All right. Shinstein.
Who?
Shinstein.
I don't know how to say it. Write it down.
Should I come out?
Stop the camera. Can't have that.
Rolling.
All right. Finally, I'd like to mention to you that I'll be going to churches now and speaking about defending the Constitution in the synagogues and the churches. And I hope you support me with some funding so I could get this ball rolling. I've been in the hospital for a year. I went down to Washington once to defend the Constitution in a sanctuary state because our documents were there. And now I'm coming out of this hospital. I'm going to spend the rest of my time visiting these places, visiting Republican clubs, and telling them about this pledge to defend the Constitution. Finally, I want to thank Tom Shinstein, who came here and did this for free and spent his time. He's helped me since the day I mentioned what I was doing, and we both agreed that we're on the same page. He's a blessing sent from heaven. Who knew I could find anyone to help me? And now this word will finally come out. And I give you one promise. This Pledge of Allegiance will be the next Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America. Nothing can stop it because it's based on the rule of law to defend the Constitution. Good night. I have many other things that will come out. We'll let you know and be in touch. Thank you. My name is Stan Zier. Have a great night.